I'm Chris from AppScale Systems, and today we'll be doing a demo of how to run AppScale over a single node VirtualBox deployment. This demo assumes that you've already got a virtual machine with AppScale pre-installed on it. If you don't, check out that video and then come back here. So, since we're running over a VirtualBox with Vagrant, we have a Vagrant file in our current directory. We can look at that Vagrant file and see that we've got a single node that runs Ubuntu Lucid 64-bit that we built AppScale off of. And we've given it the IP address 192.168.10.2. We then can type appscale init cluster to create an AppScale file in our current working directory. So here, we have all the configuration parameters that we need to run AppScale. Because we're running over a single node, we can just type in the IP address of the one machine, and that will be used to run all of the roles that AppScale requires. So here we've got the same machine running load balancer, app server, database, and zookeeper. But if you wanted to run over 4 machines, all you would have to do is uncomment this and make sure you've got 4 virtual machines with 4 unique IP addresses. But because we're only running over 1 machine, we'll leave this commented out for now. Alternatively, there are other options you can set when running AppScale. For example, we default to using Cassandra as the database of choice, but you can change that to HBase, Hypertable, MySQL, or others. We also prefer to put a lot of output to the screen just to help debug if you happen to need it, but you can always turn that off if you like. Advanced users may also find it useful to set how many copies of your data is replicated. By default, we let AppScale take care of that for us, but if you want to override that, you can as well. Then, to run AppScale, all we have to do is type appscale up. So, because this is the first time we've run AppScale with this virtual machine, it'll ask us to sync up our SSH keys. So I can type in root's password, and now our SSH key has been synced up. Note that on future runs of AppScale, you won't need to do this, only for the very first time you run it. Then, we go ahead and start AppScale over our single node. If we want to SSH into our node, we have the command to do it, or we can always just type appscale SSH. We then see all the parameters that are used to start up our AppScale cloud. We initially start off with 1 app server in our deployment and 1 times data replication. We can also see that there's the IP address of our single machine, and AppScale will try to automatically add app servers on the user's behalf within that virtual machine. We then have started up our primary controller service, which handles dispatching of services, on the first node, on our only node. We then copy over our configuration files on that machine, and if you're running in more than 1 virtual machine, this will copy over to other virtual machines as well. But that doesn't happen here because we've only got 1 machine. AppScale deployments uniquely identify themselves with what we call a secret key, and this is kind of a password. So this keeps your deployments secure so that random people can't make administrator level requests to your AppScale cloud. We're going to cut away for just a moment while this starts up, but we'll be back in just a sec. And we're back. So we've got AppScale almost done starting up here. We've got an app manager process that's been started that will handle Google App Engine apps. And then we want to type in an administrator account for this cloud. So this user can set any user's password in our cloud and handle other administrative tasks. So I'll type in my email address here and type in a password. Great. So that creates my user account for the cloud administrator. And if I have any services that use the XMPP API from Google App Engine, I've got an account with that already set up. So let's continue by uploading an application. So here we have the sample guestbook application from Google, and we'll deploy that by typing in appscale deploy and the path to our application. We'll type in our email address again to make my user the administrator for this App Engine app, which is different from being the cloud administrator. Here, this is just at the application level. Finally, if we want to see the status of our AppScale cloud, we can always type appscale status. And that'll query each node in our system and see what it's doing. So here, we've got a single machine that's the load balancer, the app server, the database, and a number of other services that we need to support the Google App Engine APIs, like memcached for memcache and RabbitMQ for the TaskQueue API. Finally, if we want to bring down our AppScale deployment, all we have to do is type AppScale destroy, or AppScale down, which also works. So that concludes this demo. Thanks for using AppScale, and let us know if you have any questions or comments about